It is now 9 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday, May 31st. I call this meeting of the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Workgroup to order. Before roll call, I'd like to mention that I had a minor emergency with my AC at home, so I may have to leave as soon as they call me, but then they are. Okay, but you will be in very capable hands.
I don't think we have any agreement.
Please call the roll.
Oh, no.
Co-Chair Aurora LeBrun. Here. Co-Chair Deborah Hines. Here. Vice Chair Diane Stewart. Here. Member Justin Camp.
Here.
Member Jason Donaldson. Member Lydia Johns. Here. Member Jerry Moore.
Here.
Member Greg Posey.
Here.
Member Pat Rawlings. Member Danny Ross. Member Bill Tarwater.
What do I need to do to reject it? Is that actions there?
Yeah, you should have an action center in the menu bar down below.
But while they check on the connection to the display, the first item
Right.
is Plan Advisory Workgroup meeting minutes. It says here, May 3rd.
Oh, yeah, last time we didn't have the minutes ready.
Right. Yeah. And that is correct. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 3rd, 2022 meeting?
I move that we approve the minutes of the May 3rd meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Posey. Please call the roll.
Co-Chair Aurora LeBrun.
Okay, call for the vote.
Co-Chair Aurora LeBrun.
Aye.
Co-Chair Deborah Hines.
Aye.
Vice Chairperson Diane Stewart. Aye. Member Justin Camp.
Aye.
Member Lydia Johns.
Aye.
Member Jerry Moore.
Aye.
Member Greg Posey.
Aye.
Okay, we have a vote. Minutes are approved. I'm going to skip item 2. I believe Linnea will be here, so maybe running a few minutes late. So we can go to number 3, review the updated meeting schedule. It is in your packet.
Page 8. So, Reason the last meeting recommended that we consider holding a work group session for each focus group as a way to really give that focus group enough attention. The schedule's posted on the screen in addition to being in your packets. So we took a second to sort of outline what that would look like. Today we're focusing on natural systems. We did put a call out for citizens. We do have one present.
One
citizen. Hey, that's more than that, so that's great. So on Tuesday, we'll be working on land use. K-Freeze will attend, so that's the next Tuesday, June 14th. Then if you look at the following Tuesday, we'll focus on fiscal, and we'll just do a brief review of the workshop that they plan to help us put on. It would be kind of like a dry run for them to present their plan and us give any last minute feedback. Then they do have the land use workshop we're planning for.
Hey, Brandon, this Brandon, call me when you have time. Thanks, bye.
We're asking that everyone consider attending that because we will need people to sort of help facilitate the focus group breakout booth area. So I don't know what K-Freeze has planned for those, but it would be nice to have a citizen representative from this group at each of them to sort of help K-Freeze, because there's only 2 of them, right? And there's more of us. So
There's a mic on. Are you
the
on?
last
Yeah, I'm listening to this. Can you hear it? I'm hearing you.
systems, physical systems, I apologize. Hopefully the platinum panel will have some kind of report generated for us by that point in time. And then we will spend one last session doing a final edit on our first draft. And when we say first draft, that's exactly what that means. Even though we've been looking at this, and we've gone through each section, some of them 3 times, some of them 2, some of them 1 now, and we're gonna be adding more. When we send this to P&Z, it will be our first draft, and P&Z might come back with recommendations, and they might not, they might love it. And maybe the recommendations they make are minor and we don't need another meeting, but it is possible we will have at least 1 more meeting after these dates. So everyone should sort of kind of plan on that concept of the work we're doing is wrapping up in July, but there might be 1 or 2 follow-ups, and that would be the end of it. Yes, sir.
Let it be noted that I will be out of state for the Tuesday, June 14th meeting.
Okay.
I apologize for that, but I'll be up in the Northwest.
Oh, lovely. Well, you have been giving feedback on the land use in the last meeting, and then you'll hopefully be back for June 28th.
I plan on it.
Great. Are there any questions about their schedule? It's the same plan we voted on last time. This just sort of gives it to you in hard copies. You can put it into your calendars, and then sort of gives you a basic outline of what we're planning and intending.
Yeah, there's the same dates, but now
We're good. I do want to apologize. This was buried in my packet, and we do have public comments from Ms. Chris Drummond, and he asked if it could be read. This says, I am speaking as a citizen and not as a representative of council. On the agenda regarding natural systems, my thoughts go to the cliche of fire, earth, air, and water. Though these are simplified categories of our natural systems, they do offer up the ability to consider elements not yet discussed. Granted, the natural system is all intricately linked together. Fire. Does the city wish to consider creating a wider discussion regarding fire protection in our comp plan? Recently, there was a large fire near our city. Does the city wish to expand our discussion around fire protection? Things individuals can do regarding protecting themselves and their property from fire, as well as things the city and the valley can do to protect against fire hazards. Earth. Beyond our trees and plants naturally creating soil, does the city wish to discuss other components of earth, such as erosion, soil health, native plants, chemical use, protecting natural topography, local food production, backyard gardens, ranches, farms, and vineyards, parks and green spaces, etc. Air. In the Complan survey results, citizens spoke to enjoying the peace and quiet of our community. Perhaps in addition to traditional concepts of air quality discussions, noise pollution could be explored in our comp plan. Beyond air pollution, another air hazard worth considering is wind damage. Water. This is rightly so the element that many of us are aware of here in the valley. As the valley develops and more of this local limited resource is being stressed, we should continue finding ways to protect this resource. Do the citizens want to partner further with local agencies to discuss best practices regarding rainwater harvesting, chemical finding their way into the waterways, flooding mitigation, water-wise plantings, etc.? Chris Drummond. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's a great segue into the next part of the agenda, which is looking at the natural systems. In the packet and up on the screen is an outline of what currently exists. I prepared this with the assistance of Mr. Camp here for the meeting as just a review of what we know we have. To briefly go over it, we have several parks: Augusta, Veterans Memorial, Brook Hollow. One Champion Circle is new and unnamed. The Brook Hollow at Hog Creek is also unnamed. We have a current parks master plan. However, I would like this group to consider requesting for an update from parks in our comp plan. That could be something in the new vision. That document is a bit aged at this point. The city has accomplished some of the goals in it, but new goals could be established and outlined in a new parks master plan. We also have an annual budget for improvements and maintenance. We could look at those numbers when it's talking about our future recommendation and consider, do those numbers need to be adjusted? Should the city be allocating more or less funds to these kinds of things? We have the POSAC grant application is still pending. There are some updates on it. There is a parks meeting coming up soon. They may be providing more information to the public on that. But I believe the grant application process for awarding money has begun, and they're starting to like allocate actual resources to some of their applications. Protection and regulation for existing trees and landscaping. Last week, the city council approved a green space ordinance, so there should be an update on this document. So the green space ordinance protects all public land and the trees and vegetation located on public land. And it also outlines information around like parking and volunteer opportunities. So that is an update to this document. Does anyone have any question on our current parks or anything to add? It is possible we missed things, or there might be topics to consider beyond what we've outlined here as current conditions. Staff, if you notice anything, you are absolutely welcome to provide input.
I have a question.
Sure.
Currently, do you have to get a permit to cut down a tree?
So if you are a resident of the city of Woodcreek, a permit is required for all tree work. And that doesn't matter what kind of property you own. You're supposed to come to the city and apply. If it was on city land, there was no regulation. So now the green space ordinance essentially puts into place the regulation and permit process for even our public trees. And that permit would be applied for, and it would go to city council, but city council can,
Excuse me, City Secretary, would you please know that I'm leaving for work? I'll be back as soon as possible. Thank you.
thank you, Laura. Good luck with your, good luck.
It's very, yeah, you'll be,
AC going out in Texas is not.
No.
Yeah. Sorry, my chairs. Okay, so previously there was no permit process for public land, and so that green space ordinance installs a permit process even for public lands. The city would approach city council could designate the duty to parks board or the tree board, maybe more appropriately, to approve permits for tree work on public land now.
No.
Any other questions? All right. So water, this is a place where we overlap with the physical systems just a little bit. I did include public consumption here, even though we're talking about natural systems. This area where the public consumes our water sort of overlaps with our physical systems. So our drinking water is provided by Aqua Texas. It is groundwater. It's coming up out of the ground. It is not surface water, and they do have a treatment system they use. We have a pump located here in town. It is over kind of between thank you, Cypher's Point, yes, and near CYJ, off of Doolittle, I believe, right? Yes. Okay. Comments in your prices and renegotiation. In the comp plan survey, these items were listed as desirable for us to look at our contract with Aqua Texas, and I can tell you that the city council is in that process. That contract is in a renewals period right now, and we have somebody negotiating with them and working on a way to improve our service and the pricing. Drought curtailment has previously been a little bit of an issue with them, but we did recently receive a notification in the mail from them that we are in a drought stage and we are supposed to be reducing our water consumption. If you are watering your lawn by hand, that is fine. Otherwise, you are supposed to be watering on your set days of the week if you're using a sprinkler system. So that was really nice to see that follow-up coming from them, that letter mailed out. We also have signs posted in the neighborhood letting us know what stage we're in and how we should be reacting and conserving our water source. Sewage, this is city offered, and, it is used in the Quicksand Golf Course for watering. I have the question of what level of safety designation, because I believe there are levels of designation for, gray water. So I don't know if anybody knows offhand what Aqua is at. We can look up that information and have it in our plan. Because they use effluent to water the golf course for us. And so it is slightly treated and then they water the golf course. There is a concern about air quality around distribution and lift centers. There's also a concern about air quality while they are watering, specifically at night. And I happen to live on one of their retention ponds that's being used for this treatment process, and it can become quite stinky.
So I was gonna mention stinky.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can be done to, just put some kind of tabs in the water to try to help a little bit with the stinkiness?
It's quite possible, and so what our goal would be in all of this, so this is just an outline right here, right in front of us. And so I will essentially turn this into that written document that we have been looking at. But notes like that you just had in are essential because when we go to write our future vision, we could put that in the future vision of, working on a more direct level of communication and some sort of active program to improve that with the golf course in particular. And so we can set that as a goal or an objective for that portion. The city could address this in the future and perhaps should. So that's a good note.
I'll say smell instead of stinky.
Smell.
Aroma.
I was gonna say, even level 1 effluent has an odor to it. There's no way to get around too much of the odor, but I would like to say that I would like for them to repair that line that runs back between us and Campion Judea, because it keeps breaking and sending sewage, raw sewage, into the pond.
Oh, wow.
So-
Well, yeah, it's going through the little ravine that we have and straight into the pond. I have pictures of it. It's lovely. It's a lot.
Yeah, so I just made a note of that again, so that could be something listed in the future goals. And maybe even perhaps around the level 1 effluent having a smell, the city could improve communication about that. Just a regular reminder of,
When they're going to water.
yeah, what you're smelling is absolutely safe and normal, and while it's undesirable, it is a part of the process of, it is wonderful our golf course is using treated water, gray water, rather than, right, or pumping from our aquifer directly. So it is a positive system of recycling. It does come with challenges. And we can discuss that in the future. So those are all good points about putting in the future goals. So we do have some private septic systems throughout our city. These are being decommissioned regularly. They're aging out of service. Mine in particular aged out of service, and I have to go through the decommission and hooking up to city sewage. So I don't know how much to include about these topics in general, but I think helping citizens be aware of that, and that's a possibility, because whenever our septic went out and we went to fix it, the gentlemen, all 3 companies I contacted were saying, we don't fix septics in Woodcreek. So they said, we decommission them and hook them. And they gave me a list of reasons why, all very reasonable. The lots here are very small. It can be very hard to get in to repair them and reset them. And essentially, now that we have the city sewage, it's more preferable to go ahead and tie into that. Which is great. It was less expensive, so it worked out.
Deborah, I think tying a link, when this document is in its draft form, tying links into that information for the public to see that if they do happen to have a septic, or tying that into a map of Woodcreek infrastructure, linking all of those things together into the work plan.
Oh, that's relevant, yeah. People don't realize that it's on the backside along the golf course is where the city sewage is running. So if you're going to be decommissioning and tapping into it, it goes back which is something my neighbor didn't know. He actually worked on his himself and came over and was like, show me your lines. I need to know which direction to dig, because he was digging it out himself. And then hired a plumber for the parts that had to be regulated. But yeah, he wanted to know which way he was supposed to dig. So that's relevant.
And when we built our house, there wasn't sewer, too close enough to our house.
Right.
So, Architects has worked with us, I think we paid like 25% of it, and then they paid the rest. So, but it was still kind of expensive, so I don't know if there's any kind of schema. So those kind of things we could maybe include.
Yeah.
To know where is the sewer running, because someone might want to know that, within the next couple of years, I may spend, $3,000 or $4,000. I don't really know what the amount is, but.
It's about $6,000.
I didn't know what a grinder pump was until about a year ago. So,
Well, that's a dirty word in our POA. Literally.
Yes, they are difficult. Do not put your products in your toilet, period.
Yeah.
Like any paper product that women use needs to go in the trash. All right, so natural waterways, we clearly have Cypress Creek, also Hog Creek, which is a wet weather creek. It does at times have water in it, but typically it's a rain event. It fills up significantly when there's a lot of rain. It is a form of drainage around here as well. A lot of our roads kind of channel into it, and it directs water down to Cypress Creek. There is a retention pond at the dam on Woodcreek Drive over near Cypress Point, where Hog Creek sort of ends and it collects there, and then it slowly seeps down into our groundwater. If there's any overflow over the dam, that does go into Cypress Creek, but that wall stops it and sort of holds it and sinks it. Hog Creek is also part of a natural system of the karst features a lot around here. So it is considered a seep, essentially. There are other seeps all over Wood Creek where water and our underground water table is essentially pressured up to the surface and coming up. So you might see these things if you're out on hikes. Hog Creek is one of them. So it's kind of like a natural spring, but it's not as highly pressurized and consistently fed as a natural spring would be. Do you have anything to add?
that was
Yeah, I'm just learning about this stuff, so I'm
Karst formations are wonderful.
they're
Jacob's
really-
Well.
Yes, exactly. I learned all about Jacob's Well recently of how that happens. All right, so we have ponds throughout the golf course. I put a question mark through those because that is a private ownership, right? It's a private land. It would be like somebody looking in my backyard and saying, oh, you have a pond feature there. I noted them though because they are so large. And they do impact our residences on a bigger scale than maybe even just like a backyard swimming pool. Yes, sir.
On this item, 3 ponds throughout the golf course.
Yes. It's gold. It's a golden golf course.
Yes.
Yeah, it's easy to read over little things like that. Thank you, Jerry. So we might mention them. I mean, they provide a lot of wildlife to the area. They are a feature of the sewage treatment system, as far as I know. We even have some rain gardens on the golf course as well. We have one located in our Augusta Park too. I guess I didn't mention that before. Oh no, it's on that. All right. So any thoughts on mentioning the ponds on the golf course? I mean, obviously they're large. Some mention of them I think is relevant. I don't see a problem with it. Okay. Then we have the Cypress Creek Watershed Protection Plan. That was something developed by the Meadow Center. It is in conjunction with the Greater Wimberley Valley. It outlines a series of things Wood Creek should consider to do in order to help protect our groundwater. There's a link there to follow to learn more about it. And additionally, there's management measures we should be taking as our city to help join in on this process and protect Cypress Creek. There's a water quality ordinance as well in our code, so you can familiarize yourself with that. I mentioned all of these things because, again, when looking at our future, right, our future vision, these are just establishing the current condition, but when we establish, okay, what based on the comp plan survey results, what are our citizens wanting? What do we need to do to update our water quality ordinance? What do we need to do to follow through with these management measures for the city? What goals and objectives should we list to direct our future city council and governing bodies to move towards accomplishing these things for the citizens? All right, so trees, there is no official city tree inventory yet. The tree board has been directed to create one for public land. In the future, one for all trees in the city of Woodcreek could be desirable and a potential goal of theirs. There are substantial amounts of heritage trees throughout the city. Oak wilt has been documented within the city's jurisdiction, and it lists our current tree code there to familiarize yourself with it. Dark skies and quiet communities. City of Woodcreek is partnered with the Waverly Valley and the Greater Waverly Valley to become a dark skies community. We did this in 2018. There's a link there for that initiative. The goal of that is to reduce light pollution and noise pollution as well, because it's dark skies and quiet community. So a future goal for us would be to look at those items and maybe increase communication about them to help residents understand why they're important, how they can be better involved. Green spaces. So a green space is a little bit different than a public park. A public park is designated public park in the zoning. It also has different functionality. There's different rules about how you can park on them, and different rules about, the quantity of people that can be on them and safety measures the city has to take to protect the people on them. Green spaces, however, are exactly like they sound. They're just a space left green, meaning we don't develop it, we don't do much with it. If anything, we just improve the vegetation on it and care for it and help it thrive. So the triangle is a right-of-way green space. That's that huge chunk of land with a flagpole and a couple benches right at Woodcreek Drive and Brook Hollow where they meet. We have the Parkview cul-de-sac. It is also a right-of-way green space. And what that means is that 10 to 15 feet on the sides of the roads, there is just like a protected zone, an easement. And so based on where these lands are located, they are technically a right-of-way green space. They're on the side of the road, they fall in that easement. You also have the Brook Meadow planter. So that's a newer addition. There's a lot near La Roca Drive. We have street trees, medians, and public right-of-way green spaces throughout the city, several on Champion Circle, several down Brook Meadow. There are small wooded areas here near the city hall. So these are undeveloped lands the city owns. They're just currently wooded. We now, so again, this is new, we now have green space regulation on them. We also have an annual budget for their maintenance. And recently, the city council has directed the Parks Board to look into applying for grants to buy more green spaces in city parks. So that is a new update. There is a grant. Mayor Pro Tem LeBrun led that effort to bring that item to council, and we approved sending it to the Parks Board to apply. So rainwater collection, we have a rain garden at Augusta Park. There were rain gardens on the golf course. Whether or not they are still there, I have not looked into, but that was part of the Cypher Creek Watershed Protection Plan. Money was invested with the golf course to create rain gardens. Rain gardens are a space where rainwater is allowed to collect and sink. So a lot of times they look wild, and they're wild on purpose. So the grasses will be tall. There's typically a ditch there, so the water can kind of collect and sink down and replenish our aquifer. There are no significant city incentives that currently exist for rainwater collection. I can tell you on a personal note that I am working on the rainwater collection ordinance to try to improve it and bring more incentives to the public and to better outline how you could potentially get some credits back on your impervious coverage for it. To sort of create a reason why. We need reasons why to engage the public on these things. So when we're looking at that future vision for our city and looking at the comp plan survey results, that's sort of where they bridge, creating reasons and incentives for the citizens to do these things.
Okay, you're done. I guess I'll wait for you to ask what's missing. On E, green spaces, Veterans Park,
Veterans Park is a park.
is in
It is located on A,
fine.
Veterans Memorial Park.
Okay, so we have it there, but they're already designated as park.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
No, you're good.
I'm kind of troubled.
Welcome back. All right, so there's also a link to the code there. So all these links to the code are just if you want to familiarize yourself again with what currently exists.
One thing in green spaces that's occurred to me, when the resort was platted, there are green, what they call green belts throughout the city, some in very unusual locations. For example, across from my house, nowhere near, not on the golf course. So it would be, and it would be good if we could plastically a golf course, and Jason is not here, we could identify those.
Okay, so if I
There's quite a
noted,
few of them.
I noted privately owned green belts on golf course. I'd have to do a little research into what their official designation is, if they're just considered recreation land along with the rest of the golf course. And our zoning map, that's what it looks like, but,
I'm sorry Pat Rollins is not here today because he was looking at an old map and he found some of those parcels and but not all. And they were marked, they were coded recreation or resort, something like that. So.
that's a good note. I got it. All right, so now we get into the fun part. What do our survey results say our citizens' goals and demands and needs are? So right off the bat, I looked at parks. They want more parks. They want a playscape. Community pool was rated high. Dog park talked several times. And then park improvements and amenities offers in general was a big request. They said, not only do we want more parks, we want these parks improved. So we're looking at like accessibility, parking spaces, water fountains, benches, bathrooms. I don't know how we'll achieve a bathroom, but these are the kind of things that increase usability. That, if you're a person with kids, you go to a park, someone needs to use the bathroom, loading everybody back up to go home diminishes the usability of the park. And so it's just things to consider. Oh, we also have water. They mentioned lower water rates, more transparency from Aqua, more drought at both and local groundwater districts, stormwater practices. What's LWX?
Low water crossing.
Low water crossing. Okay. So bridges, low water crossing, roadside drainage. These are all areas that our citizens listed as concerning or things they would like to see improvement on. Then you have the rest of our list of what exists. And rainwater collection was listed as something incentives to collect. And so before we get too much further into this, we have several members of the public here. If you all have any comments you would like to provide at this time, they would be appreciated. We did ask that citizens attend and provide feedback. So if you do wish to speak, if you could step in front of this camera and stand about 4 feet back from it, it will catch you and catch your comments. You just came to support. Okay.
Comment. I'm sorry to come in late. My job today was babysitting, so. My name is Becky Denton, and my big personal interest is in habitat and ecosystems. So I'm very much in favor of anything we can do related to water conservation, like the rain gardens that were mentioned, and the use of native plants and less turf grass. The common turf grasses come from other parts of this world. They don't really belong in Texas. And there are a number of things you can do. One of them is nothing, let it grow what wants to grow. And they're also, we really need to encourage our birds, butterflies, bees, and other critters that are part of the vital life cycle that keeps us alive. And that would be what we would do by having native plants, native grasses. And that's my interest, and that's why I came today, because of the way the meeting was described. I thought this was the appropriate place.
Definitely, thank you. All important points that we need to include on the future vision. So I have increasing habitat and ecosystems for birds, bees, butterflies, incentivizing the use of native plants in our yards. Also, I added to your comment the education around the use of chemicals in our gardens and how the city could help educate and improve the overall awareness that plants from Home Depot are covered in pesticides. And so if you buy from local nurseries that use less of those chemicals, it's better for our pollinators. Did you have another comment?
Just that I am one of the people that writes the Keep Wimberley Beautiful article in the newspaper, and that's the one I just wrote.
Oh, lovely.
About how to make your own insecticides and pesticides.
And I think, you know, as we look at more parks, I know that when Blue Hole, the city of Wimberley took over Blue Hole, Keep Wimberley Beautiful and the Garden Club at the time did a lot of the work there. And it's a beautiful example of the using gigantic plants, being, responsible for water. It's an example we should all follow.
It certainly is.
I was with the Garden Club at the time. And your founder is a good friend of mine, and she is a great supporter of
Oh,
that.
yes,
And has
she is.
taught me that.
Do you have anything you wanted to say, Jen?
Actually, I'm more concerned about trees that are shared by the golf course and homeowners. I know I'm surrounded by golf course and I don't even have frontage on Woodcreek Drive, although that's my address. So I am concerned about what the city is responsible for on Woodcreek, that the trees are city land and golf course land and then my land. So I'm confused about zoning and trees
Okay.
and lot lines. And I know that's been on your agenda for looking into the lot lines and the zoning. So I'm very concerned about how that comes about.
So your area where you live is interesting because there's a landowner and they rent out apartment-like homes, correct?
Actually, we all do.
So you all own it, so there's a POA.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
No, there's nothing.
No.
So I don't know much about that area.
Right.
So everyone individually owns those cottages.
Right.
And there is no existing POA, but there is public space there that's collectively owned or shared by you all, right?
Yes.
Okay. So along Woodcreek Drive, that easement that's there is technically a private land. So the city is not necessarily responsible for anything aside from roadway clearance.
Uh-huh.
So any of the trees there would fall under the private ownership of that area, is my
And
understanding.
that's the confusing part. The golf course is the private ownership.
So if the golf course owns the land, then the trees are under their care,
Right.
protection, and they are,
Right.
just like everyone else, supposed to get permits for any tree removal, tree trimming,
Right.
and that kind of work.
Right.
So without looking at a map, it's kind of hard you live over here in this complex.
Cottages.
Yeah, the little cottages, the SF4. At one time, I believe they were all owned by the golf course.
They were all golf course owned at one time.
So, and it's unfortunate, there's no existing POA, it's just not operational, or are there any documents?
I've dealt with the golf course through many ownerships. And they come out and they'll look at it because their cart path is an easement
Okay.
through my property. And supposedly I own one side of the cart path and the other side of the cart path.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have a similar situation. My house is very close to the car path. And I have some trees behind the line that are mine responsibility. And what I was going to suggest, if you're free next Monday, the 13th at 4:30, the tree board is going to meet.
Okay.
And council, that's Wednesday, we looked at some new provisions, what Councilmember Hines brought to the council, some changes, amendments to the tree ordinance in regards to character trees to improve the protection. And the new ordinance, there's, would include recreational land, the responsibility of those who own recreational
Right.
land. So if you're free on the 13th at 4:30, come meet the tree board
Okay,
and you have some very experienced individuals there, so that would be a good time.
so the city though can't require the golf course to treat their trees, to take care of their trees?
The Oakville ordinance that currently exists requires everyone to report Oakville, to seek preventative and mitigation
Right.
measures, and that if a tree cannot be saved, it should be removed properly.
Okay, and who, I mean, I'm not an expert on trees, so I don't even know if there's oak wilt in the trees that are on the golf course part.
You can call Oakville specialists, not to advocate for any one business, but you can Google Oakville specialists and have them come out. They will look at any trees. I believe every resident inside the city limits has the capability and right to have Oakville inspected, even if it's on their neighbor's property. They can have somebody
okay.
come out, look at it, identify there is a duty and an obligation for Oakville reporting. There is actually a fine assessed to people who are not reporting it. So yes, even if the trees are on the golf course, you have to be careful about trespassing. You can always notify the golf course, but if someone is on your land, a trained arborist and oak wilt specialist will be able to identify oak wilt from a distance to a degree that they can confidently say this is a concern. Things you can look for are yellowing leaves, apicormic growth, which is growth around the base or the lower extremities of the tree, like new growth. Those two things in combination are typically a sign of concern.
Yeah. I think I will try the golf course people again, and appeal to them to come and look at the trees that, previously they've come out on small, things that I've asked for. So, I don't know if the golf course is under contract to be sold or not to another company.
I believe they were for sale, that they may potentially be under current purchasing procedures with a new buyer. I do not personally know where that is.
Yeah,
Not
where
privy to
that's
that information.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Great input and important information for all of the public to learn about is, Oakville doesn't recognize your property line. So if it is behind you, it can spread through the roots, it can spread through beetles that go to live cuts. So that's why we have those rules about when you can be trimming oaks and working on them, is to try to protect them. So increasing those guidelines and increasing communication about them, I know are goals of mine personally and other members working for the city in various forms, and it's something we could put in our future vision as well. So it's good feedback. Thank you. All right, so that kind of concludes the introduction portion of this, and now we get to work. So we have access to the comp plan survey results. I know that trees, something we could list under trees, CI, is that protecting our trees actually came in at number 4 of top priorities for our citizens. So it was like roads, walking trails, protecting the rural atmosphere of the city, and then trees. It was like number 4. So I'm going to make sure to include that on what our survey results say. Does anyone else have anything to add? And so we're considering what our survey results say, what our citizens are wanting and demanding, and we're also considering what are our future goals that we want to list in the comp plan itself, I have a question. I thought the Triangle Park was a park. It is not designated a park, and it has never been Okay, so maybe Mr. Lewis would better explain this, but my understanding is that the Triangle Park can't really become an official park even, because it's actually just a series of right-of-way easements.
Oh, okay.
So it's like 3 overlapping right-of-way easements. There might be like a piece of land in the center that's like 4 feet by 4 feet. Can the city make improvements on it? That is possible. I know that that is something that is being researched specifically because of the POSAC grant process. The question arose of, can we build in right-of-ways? Because a typical resident can't. So I can put in a parking space, but I can't go put in a patio in my right-of-way easement. And if I did, and somehow it worked with the regulations, the city, if needed, could essentially rip up my patio to work on the lines that run under there. So,
Okay, I was just curious.
it was something I also learned recently, because everyone refers to it as the Triangle Park. So notice I left off park.
Yeah, you did, and I was like, well, I thought that was so fun.
Yeah, it is not, and, yeah. I mean, you can use it like a park, it's big enough. You can collect there. There were parking spaces on it. And even though the new green space ordinance says no parking on public right-of-way green space, it does make the exception for the triangle. And says because people use that like a park, essentially you should pull off parallel to the side of the road, because the previously existing parking spaces are no longer really there. They've either washed out from lack of maintenance or removed. I don't know the history, but you can park just parallel to the street, all 4 tires off the road, and you can use that space for sitting, eating, croquet. I don't know what you do there. It looks like it would be good for croquet. It's really level. I don't know. Bocce ball. Well, we have a bocce ball court at Augusta Park. We still need to get that tournament going. I know these silences are hard. It can be hard to think of things in the meeting. So again, you can always provide feedback via email. But we need to kind of get to work on this. We need to start generating that next section. What is the vision? So far what I have for vision, based on comments today, is that we look at incentivizing rainwater collection. We look at how to better address our relationships with Aqua Texas and increase communication about the effluent water on the golf course, and helping to work on our lines. And so a general issue I'm hearing from your comment, Lydia, about the repairing lines to the pond is specifically our aging infrastructure.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, they've replaced that sewer line once since I've been there since 2012. It's still not big enough, and it's a pressurized line. So when it breaks, it's like this lovely, geyser that comes up and it's smelly, and the water runs down our street and right into that thing, and then they pour bleach down in there to, so it's just lovely.
Yeah.
And it's smelly. So,
Then, one thing that, again, is a vision to the future, when they built Old Orchard in Clay, they, in their PD, in their PDD, in their agreement, they agreed to a number of measures, including xeriscaping, water collection by individual owners. I think that if we have new subdivisions in the ETJ, when they come to the site plan, that's something that we should ask, that there be, what was just mentioned, that there be some land dedicated to green spaces, that, and they were agreeable, they even have in their agreement that they signed to the city, the use of, appliances and fixtures that are low water conservation. So that's something that we could ask that they develop that new subdivisions have Like,
Green
don't know
building,
exactly how to word it, but it's a way to word it.
green building incentives.
Yeah, that they
And
have,
requirements.
yeah, people, she said it very well. So people, you know, that they have measures for, you said it very well. If we're talking about new subdivisions, you could say that they have measures to protect. You said it very well.
What did I say?
Ecosystem,
Ecosystem and.
Healthy yard practice.
something to that, work to that effect. Thank you.
Another thing that I want to bring up, and I don't know that this is the time, but, you know, that dam area, there's a lot of deadfall there that really needs to be cleaned up, because we were talking about fire hazards, and we got a lot of deadfall and a lot of stuff that's just laying there.
So along Waterways, you get into a little bit of debate about what's best there because the riparian border essentially is made up of those things and it's essential for a lot of things. So it provides habitat, it reduces the power of floods. When you have a lot of debris on the creek sides, it prevents the water from moving rapidly through them. So it slows erosion. It can also protect the homes in the area because it's like a natural buffer and dam. So yeah, it's kind of a weird around. I mean, I know Wimberley faced it when the Memorial Day floods several years ago rushed through town and broke all the trees. People started taking them, and then the education came out that you should leave all of those fallen trees there.
I agree with this,
So they build it.
laying all over the top of the dam.
Yeah, the dam itself is a little bit different. It should probably be cleared regularly for safety reasons.
Yeah.
I don't know who's in charge of that. I believe the golf course.
The
but
golf
actually
course
don't know
is,
that.
yeah.
So, not to be just pointing fingers at them a bunch. I wish Jason was here.
Yeah.
To receive these communications.
Well, I was just asking because, I mean, you know, the thing is with the freeze, the trees died and they're coming back. But the problem was all of the broken limbs are laying on top of the dam. We had a good flood through there, it's all gonna end up in the creek.
Yes, and those kind of things moving through floodwaters are very, very dangerous too. That's part of what knocked the house off it. Stilts was the large chunks of concrete from the Fisher Bridge and the massive trees moving rapidly, along with the 40-foot wall of water.
Point of clarification requested here, please. As we're coming down Woodcreek, below the dam, city maintenance ends, there's a sign there. My question is, and yet right on the other side of the dam is Cypress Point, or Cypress, something around where townhouses are, that those are within the city.
Right.
So there's a hole in the city jurisdiction consisting of Cuckoo Pond, for lack of a better word.
Thank you. Back up to Cuckoo Pond.
Yeah, and that's totally owned by Apotex.
No, the golf course. So the golf course owns up to Woodcreek Drive, and maybe in some areas it's kind of hard to say exactly what. There's property lines you can look up on that zoning line map in our first documents that we shared, that you can kind of see. But essentially, Cypress Falls actually owns the bridge that we all use over Cypress Creek, and they actually own this little strip of land inside the city limits along the creek bed, and they own that road. Where our road maintenance in Cypress Falls owns the rest of that over the bridge.
Cypress Falls is not the enclave of the townhouses, but,
No.
but,
No, and I could,
hole,
yeah,
Right, so it is the lodge
Yeah.
itself. The Cypress Falls swimming hole is part of that complex. It's also a wedding venue, and there's a bar and a restaurant and a care facility there.
yeah. And Jerry, I can tell you that when you go to turn up onto Cypress Point Drive, there's a little sign that says city maintenance begins. at the bottom of the hill.
So
Yeah, it's really interesting because when you go to the top of the hill and you go below the dam, that's all belongs to Cypress Falls. A little strip of land and the dam and the pond belong to the golf course. Yeah, it is. Well, with all the, with Woodcreek Resort was active, all of that belonged to the resort. And when it went into bankruptcy, things got piecemealed and it really got strange. So, yeah, we live in a real strange area.
And then the property on the other side is owned by a private family person property. So, you know, on the other side of the road,
Yeah.
past Cypress Point, that's all privately owned as well, but not the golf.
Is,
And another interesting thing, Cypress Point has a gate at the back.
Yeah.
Right behind the gate, Camp Judea owns a little strip of property, then a private person owns a larger strip of that property. And then the golf course owns a little bit of it, and then you hit Doolittle. So it's just piecemeal through there. Everybody thinks that the golf course owns that area, but they don't.
At one point, in past lives, or when I was on the council, there was discussion of how do we get that land and turn it into a park that's frontage on going out of Woodcreek on the right-hand side of the bridge there, where people are always parking to go fishing.
Yeah.
That was, an idea was to convert that to a city park, but people don't want to sell it.
No, they don't.
That is currently part of an application to the POSAC grant process to turn that into not a city park, but a park.
yeah,
A public park.
that is on Carson is the owner, and that was purchased with the intent to build the condos, and then that was not possible. So there is a grant, I saw it, it's a beautiful request for a grant, I hope it gets awarded for BOSAC that would turn that into a natural preserve.
Yeah.
I think that's what.
Well, in conservancy, I think, but anyway, it'd be kind of.
Yeah, so that's, I don't know how they can turn down that grant. It's that request for a grant is absolutely, and it's available, you can see it on the website for BOSAC. It's an absolutely well thought out grant that will protect a lot of not just the ecosystems, but also our bird population, our native animals population. I hope they see this.
Thank you.
All right, well, Justin, do you have anything you'd like to add as the kind of lead of the natural systems? Is there any direction with this that you would like to specifically take or request you would like of this group to assist?
I think this might be a big ask, but dishing out, and I know maybe we're already doing, they're talking to our neighbors and looking at this really nice list of what if we missed, whether it be trees, dark skies, and big spaces. What are the biggest, we have data from our survey, but you continue to talk to our neighbors about these bullet points here, what lies beneath, what we can still improve on to be a little bit more specific within our master plan. I know I am. I've made some of these bullet additions underneath, but to collectively as a group come together and put these ideas together, this meeting in itself has been the last for me, in the direction that I wanted that we should take for natural systems. So, but I really don't have much else to add other than encouraging the work we were on.
So yeah, so the call is talk to your neighbors, give people feedback if possible on any of these topics, whatever they are. If you have anything that comes up for you, post me to share it in email. I always put it into the document and then review it the next time around and say, this was submitted later. If you can review the comprehensive plan survey again, I know it's just giant. I'm sitting here looking through it. The graphs are really helpful. They give us a lot of direction. The comments are obviously educational and give you very specific things to focus on. So we need to be looking through that regularly and sort of inputting that into our plan. Are any questions coming up for you all as far as follow-up questions for the citizens in regards to any potential future survey, an additional survey? Is there anything you're feeling like we are missing? You know, like what do we need to learn more from our public?
Maybe it would be a good idea to include, any sort of, fire hazards.
Yeah, Mr. Grumman's comment, that was something I thought was helpful. The concept of expanding our conversations around fire protection. I know that we did our hydrant. We've updated our hydrant map. The city has now replaced all of the missing blue markers for the fire department. We've kind of worked on our communication around the expectations of those hydrants in the fire department. Our fire chief came and presented to council. We met the second plan as well. So that was educational, but yeah, we can expand on that and consider discussions or just education around what is a fire hazard on your own property. Something that the fire chief mentioned that I had not thought of was the storing of propane tanks in your garage is actually extremely hazardous, specifically for the firefighters running into your home to try to save you, your pets, or your belongings. Along those lines, in a personal experience, my aunt's house actually burned down here really recently, and she's very close to the fire department. And the fire department essentially once again stated to her, which was really hard for her to hear, so was, we're not going to be able to save your home. They don't necessarily come to a home fire to save the home. What they come for is to save the lives of the people and the animals, and then grab whatever belongings they can for you in the moment, and then prevent the fire from spreading further. So her house is a total loss. Everything's gone. But thankfully, the fire department insured her, her husband, their dogs were out. They grabbed some jewelry and her computer, and they stopped the fire from spreading to other houses around her. You can see all the trees are all singed. So I think just regular communication about those expectations and safety protocols is essential.
Won't they come to your home and do an inventory of your smoke detectors?
Absolutely, they will come and check them and fix them for you.
And even, and this is something from citizens for listening, if you have my neighbor across the street who's able to reach them, they would come not only check them, but also that replace the batteries, they will do that. They're very good about that. So the other thing too, is that as we move forward, and we have one of the issues that I would like to see is maybe going back in the way to the past, is see more community involvement. We could have some, there are people who can do beautiful garden club. I know people who are absolute experts and master naturalists who can do for free, will come in and do a workshop about what, if you're planting, if you're doing things like that. Those are things that the community would be interested in respond. I would be willing to work with that. And I know that the same thing with the fire department. The chief he loves to talk about it. He loves that he would like to do things like that. So we need to have a response.
If I might, we had an incident several years ago where our fire smoke detectors went off. Started with one, and we dealt with 10 of them going off consecutively. And I couldn't figure out how to stop it. called 911. I said, not an emergency, blah, blah, blah. Well, the fire trucks, ambulances, DPS, sheriffs, onlookers at 2 o'clock in the morning in front of our house. From that experience, the firemen finally got everything disconnected, silent trained again. But one thing that I found out from that incident was that smoke detectors, regardless of cheap or very expensive, have a lifespan of perhaps 10 years. And then you need to replace them. And that was something that was new to me, that the electronics inside a smoke detector deteriorate with age. So if we ever put out a service broadcast, I remind people that your smoke detector died. And of course, the emergency responders were having to come out to a silly old man's house at 2 a.m. to turn off the alarm. And they had one time figuring out how to silence those alarms.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Thank you for all you do.
Well, anyway, that's
But if they never go off in the middle of the day, they go off into another.
unless you can
Yeah.
hold it, they go on.
So he's absolutely right about the obsolete. The firefighters, home detector, put a little sticker today.
I have a question. When I look at the things here, it says, what are our survey results? They are citizens' goals, demands and needs. So that's really trying to flesh out.
Yeah, we're sort of covering here. I mean, I covered what was known to me from the survey itself, and Justin added some of the bullet points as well. And then so it's just kind of like if there's anything that you are aware of after reviewing those results or and coming up with the survey that you thought needed to be mentioned. I know, it goes on to the next page. We say, how do we want to gather more information from citizens? What goals do we see for our future mission section? I already added address parks and planning to accomplish this as goals for more parks, community improvements, and possibly a schools, right? And that came out of this round. And that's what I specifically want to talk about is a community pool I see as, I don't know how we can structure it in this, but I see community pool as a really subject. Expensive, massive, lots of maintenance later on down the line. Liability of drive, you have to have, reserves for how to take care of it. And I don't know, I just kind of see that as something that there's pool and then there's kind of everything else that may not be as budget stretched. So I would definitely say, I guess all I'm saying is we probably need to have a pool, maybe a worker.
Well,
Or it's not.
if I might, and this is just here's the new owner of the golf course, Bill Charler, this in our last meeting, that the new owner are requesting put in a pool for members of the golf community, but also open that pool to residents. And so that would be a community pool with
That, I have heard that, and that's encouraging back to the way it used to be. If you were a member of the golf course, there was more than the course, had pools for the family. And then residents would pay, I think, a small fee and be also members, but not, those who didn't play golf could pay, could also participate in.
I got a pool, I might pay for a membership, I'd like to go off, but
It's pretty cool. It was good. There were 3 of them. And the one in Woodcreek was to pay for the day. You didn't have to be a member of it. You just paid for the day.
So I just want to say, our job is not to solve the problems of the city. Our job is not to
use funding or to come up with a way even to fund. The job is essentially to come up with a document that says, these are the aspirations of our citizens. Here is an outline for how the city should begin approaching to address it. So under pool, here's my recommendation. We could say community pool was listed as a desirable goal in the complaint survey results. An objective for the city would be to, work towards establishing a possibility of a pool, whether it's through private ownership and membership of citizens or an actual public park, something like Trees for the South one. It has a public swimming pool available that you get into. I don't even think it's free. And just open to the public. So, if we don't have to say that they can buy this piece of land, put in a pool and charge the fund. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, and I agree that pool is a massive thing to comprehend and consider. And so saying you are right that it should be listed off to the side and should maybe be a little bit more vague. I mean, it is an objective listed as by the citizens, but we talk a lot about our limitations in funding and things like that. So a pool would maybe be a secondary thing, because it's not as achievable for the city. It would be maybe something that we would need to enter into a partnership with someone else, or because we would need the land. So if we, it's a pretty big ask for the citizens, and it doesn't matter how big ask, we need to help address it. But obviously, understanding what the limitations is.
That may be a question to ask, because the citizens have been talking about it. If I were to feel really stay on the
Okay.
Well, and one of the things that we had in Henderson Mill is you would pay a yearly fee if you got little tax or in the swimming pool. And I mean, each tag cost you like $25. So, I mean, yeah, and it's nice because, and you can take a guest, you just paid a guest. But, yeah, it was a workable thing.
So I can say with confidence that without purchasing a piece of land, installing a pool, a rather large pool, would be about $150,000 at least. And to regularly maintain it would range from $300 to $500 a month. Never owned a pool in the past, and I've also researched putting in a pool here in Waverly in the limestone, got quotes, got a design, and it was a large pool because it was intending to have like a rental community or another. I mean, it wasn't in Woodcreek, but anyway, so I know that those numbers are fairly. So we're talking about a pool. We're looking at, we'll say $200,000 in initial investment without land, and then acquiring land, and then from there, an annual maintenance fee of, we'll say $500 a month times 12. So I mean, we don't have to list all these numbers, but it's like giving people that perspective is helpful.
One thing, I keep in mind with pool, waste of the water, right? From evaporation to leaks, which will happen over the course of the life of the pool. But we're in a very critical area. The drought is getting worse day by day. Losing our excess water. Pay attention to the lake levels around Travis County. They're dropping precipitously and very alarming the amount of level dropping in the lake. And we don't have a lake there, so it's going to have to come groundwater.
Yes, so if you notice in the confidence survey results, our community center was also listed as the higher goal. And so some thoughts I've heard are the concept of a larger community center with a meeting room for city council and things, and potentially a pool being with it. And there's nothing to say you can't run these things off from rainwater collection. So you can, and they have natural versions of pools. things that use salt water, which is not as harsh for the environment. You discharge. You know, when we owned the pool, we didn't have a huge issue with evaporation or loss of water, but unfortunately, when we had to flush the pool equipment, that was where I saw the major water loss. And that's once a month, that means. So, you're flushing the whole.
I do know, I have friends, they do not live in Creek, but they live in Woodcreek. Everything in their home is rainwater, including their pool. The swimming pool is rainwater, it's natural, one of those natural houses. So they are options. It was parts. Do we have to have the rainwater collection system built for the field more expensive than it would be just regular water for the field and wrong, and it's a responsibility.
So, in the same vein of what Gary's saying, we're not trying to figure out what else. A suggestion that rainwater, all consideration taken with knowing that the groundwater system and then other options.
I think so.
So one of the things, the Waverly Valley Watershed protection plan was establishing was the 100% impervious coverage designation for pools. That was something that was kind of related to that. And so the state reinstated that. Something beneficial about a public pool is that you don't have as many residents trying to put in their own. And so that's always a benefit. That a public shared space. And the other thing about a pool before we can move on is that I think a lot of people don't realize is that they're accessible to the elderly or the more disabled versus the public swimming holes we have are very hard to get in and out of. They do not have the chair lift that you install for public pools help people who are handicapped get in and out. So there is a benefit to our aging population for something a little bit more handicap friendly, you know, for cycles possibly, my family uses it all the time. But, you know, I have a mother whose age I will not say, I would probably appreciate to be able to take my kids to a pool and being, you know, easier for her to do. So, yeah. All right, well, I'm not trying to rush through this. I do want to be respectful of our time. And so if there's anything more than that you can think of, we're thinking about what can the city do and advocate for in our future visions based on our public input, what more public input do we need, what direction can we give for the workshop they're planning for us. You know, there's a ton of links in here to help educate you all if you're feeling like there's a topic you don't know enough about. And then of course, like I said, always just email us. If anything that comes up, you know, it doesn't, even if you think it's silly, you know, just email us. It's worth it.
I like the mini survey that they did for the boat. Like I said, I thought that was the right there. Good.
Yeah, it was easy.
It was easy, it was good, something like that. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You got something else?
I have a question. Are the tree ordinance
Currently, the one we have reestablished in December extends into the ETA with limited enforceability. So it says development and subdivision, so it only applies to somebody building new things right now. And also when I say it has limited applicability because legally, to really enforce the tree ordinance in the ETA, it has to be in our site plan development. So that's something that Kate Breeze is working on and I'm working on to make sure that in the future we can truly enforce our tree ordinance and hold people accountable for it. Yes. So yes, and that's the response. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is, but if there are, we have a legal figure from the previous city attorney that I will find and share with a friend city attorney. If anybody comes into the ETJ and subdivides, whether it is one of the 20, or whether it's, for example, somebody comes in and wants to build a small office park, then there's a was, then the company for not just trees, but waters, and if they come in and do a residential subdivision, that says a complex, they'll get a lot. So this was, I still have to get in my files, the city should have it, but I'll pull it out, share it. And that came out of decision for the cities that it was involved. So there is, we have some cloud, not as big as a cloud.
Yes, it applies. To make it even more enforceable and legally sound, just include it in our site plan. That you have to follow this regulation. So we're working on that. The last, okay, before we go, even though Linnea is not here, the last thing I wanted to do was circle back and introduce the Platinum Road Panel chairperson. So Linnea Bailey has signed on to the chairperson. She'll be organizing writing meetings. She's going to be send agenda item and request to, and it's unfortunate she isn't here. And please review the role. So if you'll turn to page 6 on your document, and I'll bring it up on the screen real quick. What is the Platinum Panel? I think some of y'all weren't really aware of what that Platinum Panel is and what it's doing and why it exists. This now. There we go. It's just our so there's to establish a master plan for the city. We'll be getting recommendations from them ideally prior to the right? We don't all we say in our comp plan is essentially the Platinum Panel should establish a master plan. So they can give us feedback before they can accomplish that. They show pretty much develop a recommendation or plan for this council on this topic. They're supposed to be addressing alternative forms of transportation such as walking and bicycle as well. And they'll be looking at the funding. So we sent the road update and funding survey to them. Those results will be hopefully providing council with a recommendation on that. Then you go into our comprehensive plan advisory work group. We were tasked with writing a plan to send it a draft to PNC. We identified physical systems of the focus group. We will rely on the Platinum Panel report on this topic to generate this portion of the plan as the work directed of the last. So Diane and I can sit here and do all this work. They're doing the same on that. So yeah, this report should include a description of what exists and outline objectives to the case for the comp plan. So what exists is already established. We have tons of road reports. We know all of that. They'll just kind of synthesize that information. And a packet has already been provided to them with all that information as well. They will we've already identified areas that consider drainage, road, traffic, common utilities, and walking trails. If you walk into anything else under that we need to be looking at and helping us with, or that we need to address in the comprehensive plan, that would be helpful. And then I've provided us with this outline. We'll send it to the Platinum Panel as well. Just, that's on page 7. Here is an outline of what we're looking at already, what currently exists for us in the city. There are major areas of concern.
Public service announcement, the next meeting of the Panel will be 5:30 p.m. And they will have a solid agenda. And then, and we will read it.
So this is the chairperson. Linnea Bailey.
The chairs do that, they vice chairs, Cody.
And you send me. Sure.
I can make sure that, the agenda. I'm gonna try to.
So if I go to those meetings, I just want to kind of, you can always answer questions if they're close to you. Mayor Pro Tem LaFrentz can introduce you. Yes, having you there listening, and having that process of information, the more of us are doing that, the more quickly all of this will proceed because, you might catch things that other people miss, might help us really, transfer that information efficiently.
Yeah.
All right, does anyone have anything else before we wrap up or any concerns, questions?
If there's nothing else, then, I was hoping for more public attendance, but I like they're glad to assist Mr. K and the input they provided. And thank you once again for being here. I entertain the motion to adjourn. Second. We adjourn at 10, meeting adjourned at 10:06 a.m.
We just talked Jerry Villa. He agrees to write it. Oh, sorry. So the format was